Hello, boys and girls. Remember the last time when Pharaoh said to Joseph, I'm putting you in charge of my palace and everybody will have to obey you. No one will be over you except me. You are now the governor of all Egypt. The famine had spread everywhere in Egypt. So Joseph opened the storehouses and sold the grain to the Egyptians. People from all over the world came to Egypt because the famine was severe in other countries as well, and they needed to buy food. 10 of Joseph's brothers went to Egypt to buy grain. And since Joseph was governor of Egypt and in charge of selling the grain, his brothers came to him, and they bowed their faces to the ground. They didn't recognize Joseph, and he spoke in the language of Egypt. Joseph remembered what he had dreamed. He said, You're spies. You've come here to find out where our country is weak. That's because he wanted to test them. No, sir, they replied. We are your servants, and we have come to buy grain. We're honest men. We all come from the same family. We're not spies. That isn't so, Joseph insisted. You've come here to find out where our country is. And Joseph put them in prison for 3 days. Then he said, Since I respect God, I'll give you a chance to save your lives. If you're honest men, one of you must stay here in jail. The rest of you can take the grain back to your starving families. But you must bring your youngest brother to me. Then I'll know you are telling the truth, and you won't be put to death. Joseph's brothers agreed. Joseph gave orders for their grain sacks to be filled with grain and for the money to be put in their sacks. He also gave orders for them to be given food for the journey home. And after this was done, each loaded the grain on their donkeys and left. When the brothers started emptying their sacks of grain, they found their money bags in them, and they were frightened. And so was their father Jacob when they told him. The famine in Canaan got worse until finally Jacob's family had eaten all the grain they had bought from Egypt. So Jacob said to his sons, Go back and buy some more grain. Then Judah said to his father, Let Benjamin go with me, and we will leave right away so that none of us will starve to death. I promise to bring him safely back. Their father said, But if Benjamin must go with you, take the governor a gift of some of the best things from our country, such as perfume and honey and spices and pistachio nuts and almonds. Then they hurried off to Egypt, where they bowed to Joseph. He saw Benjamin and told the servants in charge of his house, Take these men to my house so they can eat with me at noon. Now he wanted to test them again to make sure they had changed. To the surprise of the brothers, they were seated in front of him according to their ages, from the oldest to the youngest. They were served food from Joseph's table, and Benjamin was given 5 times as much as the others, but no one complained. So Joseph's brothers drank and ate with him, and they had a good time. Later, Joseph told the servant in charge of his house, Fill these men's grain sacks with as much as they can hold. Put their money back in the sacks. Also put my silver cup in the sack of the youngest brother. The servant did as he. When they hadn't gone far, Joseph told the servant, Go after those men. When you catch them, say, My master's been good to you, so why have you stolen his silver cup? I replied, Sir, why would we do such a thing? We would never do anything like that. Joseph's servants started searching the sacks, beginning with the one that belonged to the oldest brother. And when he came to Benjamin's sack, he found the cup. Then they loaded their donkeys and returned to the city. Joseph was still at home. So they bowed down again to Joseph, who told them, I would never punish all of you. Only the one who was caught with the cup will become my slave. The rest of you are free to go home to your father." Judah said, "Sir, I am your slave. Please let me stay here in the place of Benjamin, and let him return home with his brothers." Now Joseph knew they had changed. Since Joseph could no longer control his feeling in front of his servants, he sent them out of the room. And when he was alone with the brothers, he told them, "I am Joseph, but I forgive you." Imagine the shock and surprise. He said to him, "You tried to harm me, but God made it turn out for the best, so that he could save all of you, as he is now doing." That's found in Genesis chapter 50 and verse 20. "Now hurry back and tell my father that his son Joseph says, 'God has made me ruler of Egypt. Come to me quickly.'" The king heard and said to Joseph, "Tell your brothers to take carts and return to Canaan. Have them bring their father, their families, and come here. There's 5 years of famine left." And that's how all of Jacob's family, 75 in total, came to live in Egypt. When they arrived back home, they had to tell Jacob about Joseph, how they had sold Joseph as a slave, and now he was the governor of Egypt. He didn't believe their story, so they took him outside and showed him the wagons, etc., to take them all back to Egypt. And he wanted to see Joseph again, and he forgave his sons. We know that God is always at work for the good of everyone who loves him. That also means you and me.